Morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy, Jason. We've got some football to talk about today, but today we've got a special guest. Today, it's not just going to be me yapping. Today, we've got the head of Player Profiler's data team, the rankings guru himself, Evan Ringler. You've been seeing on Stat Masters. He was on Mind a Mansion a couple weeks ago. You've got to check out his content. We're having a great show with him lined up, so go ahead and take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. My man, Evan, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing well. It is nothing like a good morning after a fantastic Thursday night football game. It doesn't really get much better than that, especially when it's a Jamar Chase game. I'm the biggest Jamar Chase fan in the world, and to see him just do that, it really just brings some tears to my eyes. How are you feeling in the aftermath of Thursday night football?
I'm right there with you. One of my favorite players in the league. You know, you just can't tackle the guy when he gets out in space, and it's so fun to watch.
It's like that first touchdown catch, there were like 6 people right next to him.
Yeah.
He's just like, no, I'm going to score. I'm going to score, and you're not going to be able to stop me. And then he does that 2 more times, over 250 receiving yards, just absolutely on fire. So I want to ask you, you're the man behind the rankings for the most part. Of course, Theo, Matt, and a lot of other people kind of chip in here or there, but you're putting this thing together. How long and what would it take for Jamar Chase to be the dynasty wide receiver 1 over Justin Jefferson?
Look, there's no question that he's in tier 1, right. But I don't want to discredit Justin Jefferson either. Yeah. You know, I don't think it probably will happen just because Jefferson is this kind of stable force while Jamar has the highest highs among anybody in fantasy, but not necessarily as consistent as Jefferson.
Yeah, that is fair. We have seen some floor games from Jamar Chase, but man, when he booms, it's just something special. It really, really is nice. And I mean, I think I am with you. Justin Jefferson, for all intents and purposes, deserves to be the dynasty wide receiver 1 and probably will be from here on out. But I mean, say Jamar Chase has another one of these games this year, finishes the year, never a game less than 15 points in general, just consistently getting there, finishes as the wide receiver 1. Could we see him jump Justin Jefferson, or is it going to take even more than that?
Yeah, it's totally possible. I think right now we still have Jefferson as the wide receiver 1 rest of season. Yeah. That could change next week with this huge performance. But, they're really right next to each other. And I don't think it necessarily matters who you rank at wide receiver 1 in Dynasty because they're basically equal in value.
That's fair. Are you familiar with the Allwine addendum from the trade?
I don't think I am.
No? Okay. So Matty Kiwoom and I, we had a trade rule, essentially, where if you have Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, you're only trading those wide receivers in Dynasty if you're getting the other one plus. So Jamar Chase for Justin Jefferson plus, or Justin Jefferson for Jamar Chase plus. No other deal is on the table worth taking. Unless, maybe you can make the argument like a Bijan, a Brees, a Gibbs, or whatever if you really need the running back help. But the point being, if you have one of these elite wide receivers, you should not get rid of them ever unless you're getting the one right next to it. How do you feel about that rule?
I think it's a pretty good rule. I'd say there are some rare times where maybe in a super flex league you could trade him for a quarterback. But generally those trades are very rare. Yeah. So you should probably be very cautious when trading away these type of players.
For sure. Are we now? The last question on the Jamar Chase, will we ever have an opportunity like this again, where he was like the 4th, 5th wide receiver taken in the first round? We were putting people above him. I just feel like we rarely see that in drafts where kind of the clear, really should have been the clear number 1 pick outside of maybe CeeDee Lamb, just is completely devalued for random things. When could we see something like that again? And how maybe upset are you if you didn't get enough Jamar Chase this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of the same thing with Justin Jefferson too, because he was going even after Jamar Chase. Those two are probably going to be top 3 picks every year for the next 5 years, unless something crazy happens. So yeah, cash in on this great opportunity. Hope you weren't picking in the top 3 this year, because it was not a great spot to pick.
No, yeah, I mean, you just had to plant your flag. That's what we were suggesting here. Unfortunately, most of the time I was planting my flag on Bijan or Brees. I was just kind of going with one of those guys. But I mean, I was taking Jamar Chase over Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson at least. I wish I'd been more firm in fading CeeDee Lamb because I've never even been a CeeDee Lamb guy, but just last year's season was so big, it was really hard to not take him there. But Jamar Chase, I mean, we were fading him for really no good reason, to be honest.
No, I think there were some real concerns about Burrow's wrist.
Yes.
Because, the narrative at the time was that Burrow, he's not practicing 3 days in a row. And, he's coming off this wrist surgery, and it just seemed like a real concern. But clearly Burrow's playing the best ball of his career. So, where's Jamar Chase is going to be right there with him.
For sure, man. And that's really what it's all about in Dynasty. That's why I've always kind of preferred Jamar Chase. Now, Justin Jefferson, of course, has his quarterback, but part of the case for Jamar Chase in Dynasty is the fact Joe Burrow's his quarterback, right?
Yeah,
like that's why like Malik Neighbors isn't going to be as high for the time being. That's why Marvin Harrison Jr. is not really going to be there. That's why CeeDee Lamb, it seems there's some controversy there in the quarterback. Like these guys have their quarterbacks right now, especially Jamar Chase attached to Burrow.
Yeah,
that's just makes a world of difference.
Yeah, and I think the one guy who doesn't really need a quarterback is Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
like I think that Chase, if you put Chase with Sam Darnold, it probably wouldn't look as good as Jefferson, just because of their play styles. Jefferson catches everything; it's ridiculous. Yeah. But yeah, they're both amazing.
All right, and another player I want to talk about from last night's game, and this is one that the Wake and Take audience could tell you here. I was very peeved, to say the least, about the Mark Andrews fade going on early in the season. So I just want to ask, is this officially the nail in the coffin for Isaiah Likely season?
Oh, that was several weeks ago, I think.
Yes.
He's been pretty useless in fantasy. I think Andrews has outscored him by about 5 points per game over the last 5 or 6 games. So just absolutely destroying him.
Yeah.
Andrews looks maybe not the same as he's been in recent years, but certainly good enough to be like a top 10-ish tight end.
Yeah, no, this is one that I know for a fact my Wake and Take audience has been trying to acquire all season due to the disappointing of the year. I know we had some Isaiah Likely for Mark Andrews trades coming from the chat early in the year. Then we started doing the Tucker Craft for Mark Andrews trades. And it's just all of these, right? Like it's just the Mark Andrews fade, and then I would just call it maybe the overreaction to a good tight end game from the fantasy community, because we're just starved for tight end points. That anytime this one young tight end does anything, they become a top 5 dynasty tight end overnight. And I just think that kind of reactionary stuff is a little bad. There's a better word for that than just saying a little bad, but it's cost a lot of fantasy managers this season, especially with Isaiah Likely. And for the people that were able to get Mark Andrews in this kind of low point, I know that they're over the moon now because he's really, really catching some steam. And I mean, we just saw it. There was really not as much Zay Flowers this week, but Mark Andrews remains consistent. And that's kind of the whole point there in this offense.
Yeah. I'm not expecting him to put up like 100-yard games, but he'll find the end zone because it's a great offense.
Yeah, man, this Ravens offense.
Unbelievable.
I want a Ravens-Eagles Super Bowl right now. I want Lamar versus Hurts, Saquon versus Henry. I think that would just be unbelievable. Can you join me on that?
I don't think – I think I'm on the Lions instead of –
I know, but come on.
It would be really fun. Just get the Ravens in the Super Bowl, and I'll be happy. How about that?
That's fair, yeah. I think we can agree we at least want the Ravens there. And I mean, I want the Lions too, but man, it's just – I love what the Ravens and the Eagles are putting together. Just the second team steam from Henry and Saquon, the mobile quarterbacks. I just think that'd be such a fun game. And I know Mark over here is feeling that one. So that was last night's game. It was really fantastic. Genuinely, probably the best game of the season. One of the best Thursday night games we've seen in a long time. Any other takeaways from either team before we move on to the rest of the show?
Not really. These are 2 explosive offenses with defenses that struggle. So of course it's going to be a shootout anytime they match up. And we're going to see this matchup at least twice a year for the next 5 years between Burrow and Lamar, maybe 10, 15 years. We'll see. Yeah. And I do want to address Harry Snowman in the chat real quick. You are actually dead on. I am broadcasting from a mom's basement. And yeah, I am pretty hungry right now.
Evan is one of the hungriest in the business. The guy kills it on a daily basis. Really holding up PlayerProfiler.com. He's Atlas over there, just holding everything up. And he's doing it all from mom's basement. So shout out, Evan.
I think that every fantasy company needs at least one person who's broadcasting from their mom's basement. Otherwise, you just don't want it enough.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly, like when I started my broadcasting, I was in just a bedroom, and you always got to start somewhere. And I think the basement has a lot of potential, Evan. I think maybe you get a green screen. You could join me on Green Screen Gang. We could figure out something with the shelves back there,
Maybe get a ceiling.
Maybe get a ceiling. I didn't even realize that. Yeah, it would probably help to have a ceiling in your room, but it's fine to see the rafters and all that stuff. Cool. Well, that was an awesome game. Awesome tidbit. Shout out Harry Snowman for that comment. Now, I want to move on to probably the thing that's been holding your end on Player Profiler a lot over the past couple of weeks, and that's a lot of these trades, projecting. As well as just adjusting rankings and everything. We'll just go trade by trade. We've talked about it, myself, on Wake and Take, so not going to go too much into it here. But just I kind of want to basically, the question's going to be the same for each one. How did your projections change, and how excited are you for rest of season for this player? We'll start with the one I was most excited about when it happened, but starting to be the least excited about, Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. What was the initial reaction in terms of the projections, rankings, and then how you kind of feeling for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think before the trade, we had him as more of like a middling wide receiver 3. The usage was incredible, but the accuracy of the passes was awful. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like Cooper didn't really want to be in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. I'd say immediately we moved him up to a back end wide receiver 2. And since then, he's probably fallen back down to where he was with Cleveland for rest of season. Just because it seems like it's going to take him some time to get acclimated. And, this injury is also hampering the speed that he can get going as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really disappointing, to be honest, especially, you come out in your first game, you score a touchdown, and then the next game you're not utilized at all, and then you have a wrist injury.
Yeah, I do like him for, fantasy playoffs potentially. Yeah. And NFL playoffs. I think that's kind of what we're looking at. But before that, I don't know. So
then, I think that's a good point because, again, I was very excited when I saw this trade. It seemed to me that the Buffalo Bills were kind of giving up on the let's have Josh Allen spread it around to get him an alpha again. So it seemed to me like he was basically stepping into Stephon Diggs. And we know now that's not happening, but there's still volume and a ceiling there on the Buffalo Bills offense. What would you be looking to trade for him? A second, maybe in Dynasty? That sound about right?
Yeah, I'd say maybe a tiny bit more, but not much. 2 seconds is too much, I would say.
Yeah, and I don't want to go into first land.
No.
Okay, maybe, and then okay, would you trade Stephon Diggs for Amari Cooper?
Oh, absolutely. I think Stephon Diggs' dynasty value is cooked. It's going to be really rough for him to recover.
It is. Okay, and that's another good point there. If you have a Stephon Diggs, probably find a move on from him. One last, Brandon Ayuk.
I have been actually buying a little bit of Brandon Ayuk in Dynasty. I don't know how productive he'll be in 2025. Mm-hmm. We're hoping that the second half of the season he can turn it on. Mm-hmm. It is a pretty tough injury. I think he had multiple ligaments, which makes it a lot harder. But I know that Ayuk is good, so I'm gonna buy him. He's still young.
Yeah, I like getting Ayuk too. And then I guess in redraft, guys, just kind of see. I imagine Amari Cooper is sitting on a lot of people's benches right now. You could probably get him for a lot cheaper than you think. Throw one of your bench pieces his way. I do think he'll be a nice fantasy playoff piece, as Evan said.
Yeah.
Now, DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs started off quiet, was one that we were all pretty excited about. Any all-star going to the Chiefs is exciting. And then he comes out, he crushes it this week on Monday Night Football. Looks like kind of the main piece of this offense. Is that something we could come to expect rest of season, and how are we projecting him?
Well, I don't think we should project him to score 2 touchdowns every game.
No.
But clearly he already has a pretty good rapport with Mahomes, and Mahomes trusts him a lot. They've really run out of receivers that Mahomes trusts. So I think Hopkins will see probably like a 25% target share, which isn't elite, but is certainly good enough to get him there. And the Chiefs offense probably won't be scoring a ton of points, but you still want pieces of it just because Mahomes is that great.
Yeah. And DeAndre Hopkins is still, I mean, maybe not as much, but especially heading into this week was incredibly acquirable, like outside the top 60 wide receivers in most rankings. And I mean, I'm sure he's still outside the top 40. And I do think he'll, at least get some touchdowns going forward rest of the season. And I mean, it was like 8 targets or something like that too, right? Like it was a decent amount off the top of my head. So
wide receiver 40 is crazy. I think of him more as like a back end wide receiver too.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like where, like in terms of like rankings and where you might, kind of, but at that point too, I mean, like wide receiver 30 to 55 is really all the same player. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A little tough there, but okay. So we're very excited about him rest of season. Should still get some volume and probably some touchdowns in Kansas City. You want any piece you can get. Now we have Deontay Johnson going to the Ravens, and that's probably the worst possible landing spot out there. And it seems, at least at first, that, it would kind of kill everyone. But it's now trending towards Deontay Johnson just being an absolute nothing burger. Is that kind of how you're seeing things as well on the projection side?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was just 4 weeks ago. Everyone thought Deontay Johnson was going to smash and be like a easy wide receiver 2 rest of the season with Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
And now he is, he should be on waivers in basically every league.
Yeah. And what is Carolina doing? Like, why bring in this guy just to trade him? You brought him in because you want to build around him and kind of your core. I guess he maybe just didn't fit. Maybe wasn't a good locker room presence or something. Just didn't like being there. But
yeah, it was weird business because they brought him in for super cheap. But then they sent him away for like a 15 pick swap in the 5th, 6th round. Like,
who cares? Awful move. Yeah. The Panthers are not in a good position at all. And
I'll tell you what, though, they absolutely fleeced the Cowboys. Anyone can fleece Jerry Jones.
How did Jonathan Mingo go for that much? He went for more than Deontay Johnson.
Way more, yeah. It's incredible.
Which, speaking of, I didn't even put this on the show sheet, but are you excited on that from the data side? Jonathan Mingo has done nothing, but it's easy to talk yourself into it. Yeah, okay. Neither do
no. I think I have him at like 1% target share rest of the season. I just don't care.
Jonathan Mingo or Ryan Flournoy?
That's honestly the discussion.
I'll go Flournoy. Drink. Audience drink. All right. Mike Williams to the Steelers. We've got George Pickens 2.0. How are we feeling?
I think it's a good fit for him. Russ he has his weaknesses. He can't throw over the middle of the field. He's not as elusive as he used to be. But one thing he can do still is throw accurately on the sidelines, especially deep down the field. And that's what Mike Williams excels at. I don't think that this will take Mike too long to kind of get acclimated because they'll probably ask him to play a fairly simple role, just go downfield and moss people. But at the same time, I don't expect him to be a huge fantasy asset just because George Pickens is there and the offense probably won't score a ton of points.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I am slightly worried for George Pickens just because obviously George Pickens is still awesome and still going to get there. But I mean, you just take away one of those big plays and give it to Mike Williams, and we're talking about a difference between a 25-point game and a 15-point game. Yeah, and I am kind of worried to see how that stacks up. I'm at least putting George Pickens on the block because I do think Mike Williams is a player that comes in to change things a little bit, but the fantasy community hates him so much that, it kind of seems like a non-factor. But I would be curious to see what you could get for George Pickens right now, just because, I just think taking away one or two of those big plays a game, even if it seems small, it really does affect the points that George Pickens is putting up.
I like that call. I'm with you.
Cool lockstep here. And lastly, This is obviously more of a handcuff situation with Khalil Herbert going to the Bengals, but could end up being a really nice one. Chase Brown is killing it right now. I don't really think he's opening the door really for anyone to step in at all at this point. But I do think Khalil Herbert's probably worth rostering. How are we feeling about him on the data side?
Yeah, I would say he's, probably one of the top 10 handcuffs. So somebody that you should definitely be keeping an eye on. But, he's not exactly startable anytime soon.
Yeah, and apparently he pulled a Flournoy last night. Shout out Dustin Royer.
Yeah,
so,
he did.
We're not coining that. We're not having a one-touch fumble be called a Flournoy, okay? We're not doing this. He's going to figure it out. He's got to figure it out. So those are our trade reactions. Some fun stuff going on. Hopefully, we were hoping we'd get something a little bit bigger, but still those are some good moves. And, I think we learned a lot. Good advice from Evan there. Before we get into the rest of the show, I do want to play a little bit of an ad break here. Let's just hear about what's going on, just in Player Profiler in general.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free, and one of our key missions is to make as much statistics and information and deep analysis available on PlayerProfiler.com for free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In package to continue to make all this possible. If you can't do All In, that's okay. We have a draft kit. Or you can just subscribe to the player rankings. Those now include tight end premium FFPC ranks. Our brand new data analysis package will blow your hair back. And of course, there's our Dynasty Deluxe and our DFS Dominator. Take a moment, check out our premium services to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.
Definitely go check out Player Profiler. You already know it. You're here. But still, if you found our channel and haven't checked out the site yet, PlayerProfiler.com is the place to be. Evan, I want to know. We're a little over halfway through the season now. I've got two questions for you. One, an LLAP. Who were you wrong on? Who's kind of been disappointing to you this season?
I got nobody. No, I'm just kidding. I have plenty of misses. I guess one of them is Saquon. I wasn't totally fading him, but I definitely was not drafting him very often at all. Mm-hmm. I was worried about Jalen Hurts rushing and the lack of running back targets in that offense, but I think I probably just overthought things a little bit because Saquon is that guy. Yeah,
Saquon is that guy and a half. Unbelievable season he's putting together. Can't believe you would fade him, Evan. That's grounds for removal from the show.
Oh, well, we got a nice victory lap coming too. So
okay. All right, well then let's hear it. Who were you really right on that most people weren't?
Derrick Henry. Let's go.
That's a good one.
At Player Profiler, we had him as a first-round pick in all formats, and I don't think there's many people in the whole industry that can say that. So that's one of the proudest wins that we've had this season.
Yeah, that one was a great call. Definitely, when I started to see the confidence for Derrick Henry, that led me to pick him a bit more. And we actually did a collab on Instagram with fantasy football analysts. They're awesome. Great content from them. But we did a perfect draft, essentially. Like, we picked, the best player in each round. And he even got shocked at me when I was like, yeah, you should pick Derrick Henry in the third round. And he was like, really? Oh, okay. And I was like, yeah. That based on our rankings, that's the best pick to make in that round. And here we are, watching an unbelievable season. We had Dan Williamson on the show 2 weeks ago. And he said that he thinks that he's probably on the way to breaking Eric Dickerson's record. It's going to have to take a couple more ceiling games as the season goes on. But that's what we see from Derrick Henry, right? The end of the year, December comes around, and he just starts playing even better somehow. So it's been an incredible season from him. That was a great call by you and the whole Player Profiler data team, and putting those in our rankings. That was a really, really good call. Now, I want to move on to week 10. Is, we've got questions. We've all, got to set our lineups and stuff this week. And you're putting all this stuff together. Who's your top start of the week?
Khalil Shakir, who's a player that has kind of been associated with me by Matt over recent weeks, just because I've been talking about him a lot. He's currently 7th in yards per out run among all receivers, and he's 1st in yards after the catch. It looks like Keon is probably unlikely to play, while Amari Cooper is more iffy. I would say Cooper probably plays, but we don't know because last week he was a surprise that he didn't play.
Right.
And they're going against the Colts, who have a pretty bad pass defense. I expect Shakir to eat this week. Have him around wide receiver 16, I think.
Khalil Shakir's season has been a godsend for me. I adopted the worst orphan you've ever seen on FFPC, Evan. They do this thing, right, where you can resell your teams. There's a dynasty market, and in an FFPC $250 league, there was a $1 orphan because it was so bad, and I took it. I was like, I want a challenge. Literally the worst team I've ever seen, Evan. I have Jared Goff and a single quarterback. Like, that was my best asset. And somehow my first round pick was the 110 as well. So I don't know what happened at all. But in the rookie draft in FFPC, for those of you who don't know, veterans and free agents, the free agency pool is in the rookie draft. And after round 3, I started looking myself in the eyes or in the face, and I was just like, why do I care about Devontae Walker or whatever here? Like, Khalil Shakir is right here.
Jeez.
I could take Khalil Shakir in the 3rd and 4th round of my rookie draft. And then I get Michael Wilson. And then I got Wan'Dale Robinson. But Khalil Shakir in particular, a huge godsend. That's full PPR. Team still sucks. Not trying to victory lap that. My team is still awful. I've only won 1 game. But even to win that 1 game was pretty exciting. Anyway, it's I would love to show that team to you at the end of the show because it's just so horrendous. But Khalil Shakir has at least added some value. I'm hoping to resell the orphan for maybe $100 or something this year to make a little art of the deal. But anyway, Khalil Shakir, good call this week. Line it up for good success. And really should have been called, really. There was too much Dalton Kincaid hype. We should have expected a little bit Khalil Shakir as well.
Yeah, Kincaid's actually had some like really consistent usage. He's been above like an 18% target share for basically every week. There's just no spike weeks with him.
Yeah. Oh, well, here we go, though. The Colts, number 24 versus slot wide receivers, and give it up to the tight end as well. So maybe we'll see a big Shakir and Kincaid week. Watch the Buffalo Bills. Now,
hopefully.
Who we sitting? You have one guy to sit. Who are you using?
Yeah, I was trying to find like a more high profile player that I could make a hot take on, but I just couldn't find one this week.
Yeah.
I went with Jalen Tolbert just because CeeDee Lamb's out. He'll be their wide receiver 1, but I'm just not really interested with that matchup.
Yeah.
Philly's pretty good in terms of like fantasy points against wide receivers, and I just don't want to bet on Cooper Rush. Also, Jalen Tolbert really hasn't been that good.
Yeah, for sure. I like that call. I also, this was, we do our start sits on Thursday on Thursday's episode, and I had a hard time this week in general doing the starts and the sits. I just felt like all the injuries and bye weeks are kind of piling up this week to where it's almost like you have to start certain players no matter what. And then you kind of have, like, too many people are hurt. Like, there's not really a good sit. I think I went with like Jameson Williams as my hottest sit just because I don't know.
I'm with you on that one for sure. Yeah.
And I'm a big JMO
guy. He had
guy.
2 good weeks. I am not a JMO guy.
Yeah.
He just keeps burning me.
Yeah. He didn't burn me because I was so in on him that I started in weeks 1 and 2. And then now I guess now I'm being burned by the suspension. But anyway, sitting him this week. Don't really think Dan Campbell's going to like him. I'm feeling a doghouse week.
Oh, 100%.
No, we've got the starts and sits, but just real quick, anyone that you can maybe pick up for the waiver wire this week that you'd recommend either stashing or even streaming in a pinch?
My favorite streamer this week is Taysom Hill. If he's available, I would start him comfortably as like a top 8 tight end just because all of the skill players are out for New Orleans, but Carr is still playing. So that means that they should be able to at least move the football a decent amount, enough for Taysom to get some opportunities in the red zone. I like Taysom quite a bit for the rest of the season as well.
Yeah.
As far as stashes, it's really just any of these backup running backs. Blake Corum, Jalen Warren, Tyler Algier, Ray Davis. We mentioned Khalil Herbert, and there's, a few others as well.
Yeah, all of them. Kamani Vidal, Trey Benson.
Yep.
Get them on that team. Jerome Ford now as well. Yeah, do
Absolutely.
it. Good call. All just running backs, guys. We talk about it on our waiver wire episode every week. Like, don't worry about these wide receivers unless it was Cedric Tillman, right? Like, let you pick up these running backs, sit them on your bench, and just wait. Just wait. Now, let's move on to the money moves. This is my favorite part of the show. This is where we can really, really get exciting. Figure out the best moves to make, buy, sell, hold, all that fun stuff. If you had a fun coupon right now, you could just go add any player to your team. Don't worry about the price. Who would you be buying?
Oh, well, if I can just add anyone, I'll pick Jamar Chase.
There you go. Well, but would you recommend buying Jamar Chase? Or you also or what's your value?
No, I had my buy as Raheem Mostert, so much cheaper, way cheaper.
Much cheaper.
He's probably on benches though, not on waivers, which is why I mentioned him. I think that he is one of these guys, kind of like Tyler Algier, where he's an elite handcuff, but he also has some standalone value. I think that he could score a touchdown or 2 touchdowns on any given week, even with Achane healthy. And if Achane does go down, then it is Raheem Mostert as a maybe high-end RB2.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't want anything to happen to Achane.
I agree. I'm all in on Achane, but
now, well, do you think that kind of like in Buffalo, right? Like Ty Johnson kind of gets more work than Ray Davis, but then when James Cook was out, Ray Davis got more work. Do you think that we would see that in Miami where Jalen Wright would jump ahead of Raheem Mostert if anything happened to Achane? Or do you think it would be Mostert getting that role?
I think that they just trust Mostert more.
That's fair.
Like last year, they trusted Mostert a lot more than Achane, and that has built up to now that it's switched.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should expect Jalen Wright to take some time. He is getting work early, which is a great sign for his dynasty value.
Right.
But yeah, I think it would be Mostert if Achane went down.
Okay. All right. I am looking to sell Mostert in one league, but that's because I have Achane, Mostert, and Wright, and so I kind of I kind of want to consolidate it and just bet on Achane and Wright. But it is nice having all three as well. What would you be looking to get? A second or a third?
Jalen Wright? Mostert?
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can get a second, to be honest. That's why I'm not trying to sell him.
Yeah.
But in your situation, it does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I would try to buy him for a third. I was thinking more redraft anyways, but
True. Well, then what would you give in redraft? Like just another handcuff, essentially? Do a little
pretty much, yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, that was kind of a boring buyout of me. I gotta come hotter next time.
What is the Raheem Mostert? Well, maybe it might work though. Not many people are saying that, and that's a sign of a good buy.
That's what I was going for. Nobody's talking about him.
No one. I mean, he's vulturing some touchdowns right now too. So I don't mind it at all. That's one you could get for cheap. And if things fall the way for Raheem Mostert, I mean, we just saw him kind of break fantasy last year. Pretty easy to expect that to happen again if anything happens to Achane. So that's a fun one.
Okay, I'll give you one more. Jacoby Myers. How about that?
Okay.
Is that a little more interesting?
I mean, it's still pretty boring, but it is more interesting for sure.
Okay, it is boring, but you can play him right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I view him as more of a every week back end wide receiver 2 right now. He's just going to get really high volume,
even with Desmond Ridder potentially.
Well, it's a volume play. It's a volume play.
Please put Minshew back in, even if he's sucking. It breaks my heart to see Minshew suck. I just like him too much. He's too likable.
Yeah, but he does suck. Unfortunately,
he's really bad. Now, who would you be selling? At getting the highest part or market price you could. Who are you selling?
Yeah, this one hurts my soul. It's Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm a Seahawks fan. I love JSN. I just don't expect him to continue this elite production when DK returns. We've seen a couple games this year where he gets the great usage we want. He's running downfield routes.
Yeah.
But it's only been a couple games, and I don't trust it yet, especially when DK comes back. I think he immediately goes right back into the alpha role.
That's sad.
I agree.
You're probably right, though. I mean, you're probably right. I don't know. I would still be looking for a good return. I would be curious if I could get DK Metcalf for Jackson Smith and Jigba right now, you honestly might be able to do that. And we talked about it. There's a lot, like the wide receiver, like 30 to 55. They're really all the same. So if there's a good tier down candidate you like in that range, like Xavier Worthy plus, maybe if you like Worthy. It looks like Evan doesn't like Worthy.
I don't like Worthy. I liked him coming out, but man, the usage just hasn't been there.
It hasn't.
Yeah,
it hasn't. Jamison Williams plus. I know you love J-Mo. That would be a fun one.
Khalil Shakir plus.
Nah, I mean, you could probably get like 10 Khalil Shakirs for Jackson Smith and Jigba. And they're really the same player.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. That's a fun one. I do think, though, that, I don't know, I kind of like what the Harry Snowman saying. I could see them trying to move on from BK over the next couple seasons.
It's potentially.
Not. I mean, they'll get rid of Lockett first. I think.
Yeah, Lockett is most likely, retiring after this year. The contract, they would cut him if he doesn't retire, probably.
As a Seahawks fan, you gotta hate that, right? Like,
it hurts my soul for sure. But at the same time, it happens. It happens. It's the business.
Are you good? Do you have a Tyler Lockett jersey?
I don't. I have a DK jersey.
You got a Tyler Lockett jersey.
Yeah, love that guy.
Yeah, get the throwback one too. We're gonna Operation Get Evan a Tyler Lockett jersey. He deserves one, especially if he retires.
Right now, I'm looking at either Byron Murphy or Devon Witherspoon. I want a defensive jersey.
You don't want Reek? You don't want Woolen?
Oh, Reek is he's hit or miss, man. He was so good his rookie year, and then last year he was getting benched, and this year he's had some amazing plays, but he's also gotten dunked on by Keon Coleman. So.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what he is, right? He's a boomer bust cornerback, which is hilarious.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway.
That was awesome. Keon tapped him on the helmet after.
Yeah. What can you do? What can you do? I love this game.
Much.
Now, before we get into the hot take, that's always fun. I'll save that for now. We have a few questions in the chat I want to get into. I'm going to scroll up to the top real quick here and then work our way down. Let's see. Lots of Jamar Chase love/hate in the chat this morning. You're
Who's
smart
hating on Jamar Chase?
Just playing against him.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, it would suck. It would just suck so hard. Man, lots of no questions really at the top. I didn't need to scroll so far. I scrolled too far. All the questions are at the bottom. Okay, here we go. How are we feeling about Mac Jones potentially stepping in for Trevor Lawrence?
I think it's going to be a disaster, man. I honestly think T-Law is. I wouldn't say he's necessarily great, but I think he is pretty good, and Mac Jones is not. He can't do a lot of the things that Lawrence can do, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Christian Kirk is out for the year, and the rest of their skill positions have been very banged up. I just don't really see it. They also traded away their left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty much fading all Jaguars for the next few weeks.
Well, that might lead into this next question because Wesley was wondering about your Brian Thomas Jr. ranking.
Yeah, BTJ is the one guy. I guess Engram too, because he's more of the underneath guy. I think Engram's got a decent floor, but BTJ, I think he might be outside of the top 24 wide receivers this week, which really hurts because we've been high on him from the beginning, but what can you do? I just don't think Mac Jones will be able to get the ball to him consistently downfield.
What a weird.
What do you think?
No, it's just a weird timeline, right? Like we imagine just a couple years ago, like it's a hot take to say that Trevor Lawrence is pretty good. And then now we're also talking about Mac Jones being his backup after being like the best rookie quarterback a couple seasons ago. It's just a weird timeline we're living in, especially in Jacksonville. But I do agree, Brian Thomas Jr. I think even with Mac Jones, you've just got to start him. I can't imagine who you'd be sitting him for. I mean, unless you're in. Like
that's the thing about wide receivers right now, especially. It's just it's pretty weak.
Yeah, but all right, this is a good question. What are we doing with Anthony Richardson? For me, I'm holding and buying. I can't. I can't. Right. I go to PlayerProfiler.com. I see the bar chart, the metrics looking way too good. I can't. I'm a simple man. I'm buying Anthony Richardson.
I'm right there with you. I look at the metrics, and then I look at the tape, and I see this guy throwing downfield, and he looks like a really good downfield passer already. So, all he's missing is if he could become, decent in the short to intermediate range, then I think all of a sudden we're talking about a very good NFL quarterback. Yes, I am buying, I am holding, and I'm buying again. Yeah. I guess actually one of my hot takes was that this time next year, Richardson will be a top 8 dynasty quarterback again. I don't know how hot that is, but I thought it was kind of hot.
That's kind of hot. I like it. That's like medium on the hot wing scale, I would say. Better than mild. Not super hot, but it's hot. We'll go medium. Is there like a medium hot? A very hot, not like super hot. It's up there. I think that's a good one because people have completely given up on Anthony Richardson, including his own organization. I do not think they should have benched him for Joe Flacco, at least not doubled down.
Idiotic.
It's just
if you want to bench him for a week, maybe 2 weeks, whatever. But it seems like it's more of a long-term thing.
What they said, or at least there are reports out there that they are doing it rest of season. We'll see. But yeah. I mean, I don't know. I would have pulled the plug at halftime. Joe Flacco was not doing it this Sunday. You just put Anthony Richardson back in. You've given him the high school coaching method, like, oh, you missed a homework assignment, we're gonna bench you, that type of thing. That's exactly what happened here. And they're doing it too much. Like, they need to develop this guy. He needs the game reps, and taking those is just going to hinder him even more. But we are buying him. Here we go. Would you trade Jaden Reed, Brian Robinson, and Darnell Mooney for Cooper Kupp and Ramondre? I'm going to go with no. I would rather have Jaden Reed, Mooney, and Brian Robinson.
Yeah, I would say that Jaden Reed is close to just better than Kupp and Ramondre in Dynasty. Not quite. We are talking Dynasty, right? I think so.
Even in redraft, though, I mean,
gearing
up for a great second half. Jaden Reed's Jaden Reed. Brian Robinson's Brian Robinson. I mean, we like Cooper Kupp, but not for these.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely more fair in redraft. So I'll probably treat it as redraft. Mm-hmm. I would probably rather have Brian Robinson than Ramondre, but it's razor thin. And then Reed plus Mooney for Kupp and redraft. I guess I might take the Kupp side just because there is probably more wide receiver 1 upside there rest of season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is important to note it is a 10-man, so it is probably a little bit shallower. Consolidating that roster space is always nice too. So,
but in Dynasty, it's Jaden Reed for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Now, how worried are we about Pitt's hamstring? I would say kind of. I mean, he played through the hamstring injury earlier in the season. And you never really want to see hamstring injuries linger ever. So we'll see. I mean, luckily, he doesn't really run routes. He kind of just runs straight. And you could do that with a bum hamstring. So we'll see. Especially with the Drake London injury piling up. I mean, things could just be rough for Kirk Cousins maybe over the next couple of weeks. But it seems he's fine. He was able to pick up limited practices the last 2 days. We saw this week 1 where he had the same thing, limited with a hamstring all week, and then was able to play and be fine. So I would put my worried meter at like a 3 out of 10 right now. What about you?
Well, I'll probably go more like a 5 or a 6, just because we've seen the injury concerns for Pitts, and he's kind of like he's a Ferrari. You just don't want to get any like one grain of sand can just shut down the whole system. And I don't know. He's just the injury concerns have they've been stacking up.
That's fair. Yeah, well, definitely monitor it. I mean, if he picks up a full practice today or tomorrow, I think things are fine. But if he continues to be limited, and then we hear like, probably a snap share lowering on Sunday, then
I'm curious. What do you think as far as how he's looked this year as opposed to like his rookie year?
Honestly, I'm kind of disappointed. I know he's putting together a decent season, but I expected a bit more usage, especially kind of all around. Now, I do think we're starting to see it, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, they just kind of have him run like 1 or 2 different routes, and they're not really utilizing him super creatively. But to that point, I mean, that's kind of how Gronk's career started, right? This kind of break the seam, get open for touchdowns, and then we'll see you turn into a good blocker, and then we'll do the block release routes and all the other fun stuff that an actual tight end does. But he doesn't break tackles at all. He does not break tackles. And I think that is kind of the big concern, because you would expect that for someone of his size. But I mean, he goes down very, very easily. So I guess like I was hoping for more dominance, but I'm still, I'm still impressed by what he's putting together. I just wanted a bit more, a lot more.
Yeah, he's just not physical, and it's really disappointing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He's not physical at all, which is just so weird for his size. And I think that if he could do that, he would be, what he was drafted to be. But right now, he's honestly not. He's good. He's very good, even. But it's a very limited route tree, and he's not getting enough volume. He's not. I don't know. It's definitely disappointing, but still very good. You might like this. Sam Darnold to the Seahawks next year.
Please no. Please no. Anything else. If we're going to bring in Sam Darnold, we might as well just keep Geno, who is like way better than Sam Darnold, in my opinion. That would really make me mad.
I would rather have Sam Howell, really. Just give me Sam Howell. See what he's got. Now, I thought I clicked on the question, but it was like something about, are we worried about Jonathan Brooks, especially now with the Chuba Hubbard thing? Like, what are we expecting?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, I was always fading Jonathan Brooks. It looks like another win so far. But yeah, in Dynasty, Brooks will be losing significant value this week for sure. I mean, I guess they're trying to do like a Gibbs and Montgomery thing, but they don't have the offensive line, and the running backs aren't as good, and they don't have an offense, period. Not loving that.
No, it's awful. Really, for both Chuba and Brooks, really. I mean, like it's just it's just like
Yeah, the hope for Chuba was that he was gonna, get a great contract somewhere else and be a guy, but probably not.
Nope, not anymore. At least, not anymore. Now, Evan, we've gone through enough questions. I'm tired of them. Thank you for asking them, though, chat. Shout out you guys as always. What's your hot take before we get out of here?
Chase Brown will be a top 5 running back rest of the season.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. He's getting the volume. He's athletic. He's on a good offense. What else are you looking for? I'm going to give a shout out here to John Law, the Gridiron Scholar. We had him on a couple times this offseason. He consistently told us to draft Chase Brown. He was like, you've got to get Chase Brown by whatever means. And, I didn't listen enough. I only have a few shares of him, but I'm very happy where I do have him. I have no Zach Moss. I didn't get any Zach Moss, at least. But Chase Brown, great call. Top 5 rest of the season. Who says no? I know I don't. I think that's a very, very good call right there. Now, go ahead and tell the audience where they can find you and all your great work, Evan.
Well, all of the rankings at Player Profiler, I have a hand in all that stuff. So check out the Player Rankings package. Every week, usually on Friday, this week is probably going to be Saturday, we're dropping Stat Masters, where I give you 20 statistical cases in 20 minutes. And get in, get your info, and get out. And that's on the Player Profiler news channel on YouTube, and also on the Stat Masters feed on your podcasting apps.
Yeah, and I'm sure that'll end up on the main channel at some point as you brush off your chops. You're doing fantastic work, Evan. You genuinely are. Super excited to have you on the show. Super excited to be working with you alongside at Player Profiler. You're going to do great things. You are doing great things. Keep up the great work, man. And audience, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you check out Evan's work. His Twitter is in the bio. It is Evan Ringler FF, right? Or is it just Ringler FF? Okay. All right. So Evan Ringler FF on Twitter, putting out some fun stuff there. Make sure you check out Stat Masters. Make sure you continue subscribing to Player Profiler. And make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. You all have a fantastic Friday, a wonderful weekend. Good luck in week 10, and we'll see you Monday for some more Wake and Take. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.